Marcus pressed himself against the wall of the elevator as three executives rushed in, their voices loud and confident, discussing the quarterly presentation he'd spent 2 weeks preparing. Not one of them glanced his way. Not one acknowledged that the data they were praising, the insights they were claiming credit for, had come from his desk at 2 in the morning, fueled by cold coffee and the hope that someone might finally notice. He was 34 years old, and he felt like a ghost. When the elevator doors opened, Marcus stepped out into the lobby of Sterling and Associates, pulling his jacket tighter as if it could somehow make him more visible, more solid, more real. But as always, people flowed around him like water around a stone at the bottom of a river, never seeing, never stopping, never wondering what lay beneath the surface. That evening, Marcus sat alone in his apartment, the same four walls he'd stared at for 3 years, and he felt something inside him beginning to crack. It wasn't just about the job anymore, or about his boss taking credit for his work, or about sitting at family dinners where his cousins talked about their promotions and their achievements while he quietly cut his food and said nothing. It was deeper than that. He was starting to believe what the silence told him, that maybe he really was ordinary, forgettable, worth overlooking, and that belief was becoming a weight he couldn't carry much longer. He could feel himself shrinking, becoming smaller in his own estimation, until one day he feared he might disappear entirely, even from himself. Something had to change, but Marcus didn't know what, and he didn't know how. The next Saturday, seeking distraction, Marcus wandered through the old quarter of the city, a neighborhood he rarely visited, with its narrow streets and shops that seemed frozen in time. He found himself standing before a small jewelry store with a hand-painted sign that read, Castellano Fine Gems. In the window, a single stone caught his eye, rough and ordinary looking, sitting beside polished diamonds and sapphires that gleamed under the lights. The door chimed as he entered, and an elderly man with silver hair and kind eyes looked up from a workbench cluttered with tools and stones. "Welcome, young man," he said, his voice warm and textured with an accent Marcus couldn't quite place. "I'm Gabriel Castellano. Are you looking for something special?" Marcus shrugged, feeling foolish. "I don't know. That stone in the window. Why would you display something so plain next to all those beautiful gems?" Gabriel's eyes crinkled with a smile. "Ha, so you've noticed my unpolished stone. Come, sit down. Let me show you something." The old jeweler pulled out a wooden box from beneath his counter and opened it carefully. Inside were dozens of stones, rough and dull, looking more like something you'd find in a parking lot than a jewelry store. "These," Gabriel said, holding up a grayish, unremarkable stone, "these are raw sapphires. This one," he lifted another that looked like a chunk of dirty glass, "is an emerald. And this," he cradled a reddish-brown rock with reverence, "this is a ruby, worth more than my entire shop." Marcus leaned forward, skeptical. "But they look so ordinary." "Exactly," Gabriel said, his eyes brightening. "That's the point. You see, when gemstones are first found, they're covered in matrix rock, in dirt and imperfections. They look like nothing special. Most people would walk right past them. But a true jeweler, someone who understands stones, they can see what's hidden inside. They can see the potential." He placed the rough ruby in Marcus's palm. It was surprisingly heavy, solid, real. "Every gemstone must be discovered where it is, not where we wish it to be," Gabriel continued. "It must be recognized for what it is, not judged by what it looks like on the surface. And here's what most people don't understand. The stone's value doesn't change whether it's polished or not. The brilliance is already there, inside, waiting. The cutting and polishing don't create the beauty. They only reveal it." Marcus came back the following week, and then the week after that. Gabriel never seemed surprised to see him, simply cleared a space at his workbench and continued his work while they talked. One afternoon, Marcus finally asked the question that had been building inside him. "How do you know, though? How do you know which rough stones are valuable and which ones are just rocks. Gabriel set down his jeweler's loupe and looked at Marcus with sudden intensity. That's the question you really came here to ask, isn't it? But not about stones. About yourself. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I just feel like nobody sees me. At work, I produce excellent results, but my boss presents them as his own. At family gatherings, I'm the one everyone forgets to ask about. I've started to wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just not remarkable. Pick up that stone, Gabriel said, pointing to a rough, dark rock on the table. Marcus held it, turning it in the afternoon light streaming through the window. Now, Gabriel said quietly, hold it up to the light. No, higher. There. Do you see it? And suddenly, Marcus did. As the sunlight passed through the stone, it transformed. Deep violet and blue hues blazed from within, and he could see, buried in the rough exterior, something magnificent waiting to emerge. That's an amethyst, Gabriel said. But here's the secret. Its beauty exists whether anyone holds it up to the light or not. The stone doesn't need validation to be valuable. It simply is. The old jeweler stood and walked to his window, beckoning Marcus to follow. He picked up the rough stone from the display, the one that had first caught Marcus's attention. This stone has been in my window for 20 years, Gabriel said. People ask me all the time why I keep it there, unpolished, uncut, apparently worthless next to the finished pieces. I keep it there to remember my own story. He turned to face Marcus fully. When I was young, I apprenticed under a master jeweler in my country. I was talented, but I was quiet, reserved. The other apprentices were loud and confident, always showing off their work. For years, I believed my master barely noticed me. I felt invisible, just like you do now. Marcus's heart beat faster. Then one day, the master jeweler called me into his private workshop. He showed me his most precious stones, the ones he was saving for his masterwork. And he said, Gabriel, I'm giving these to you to cut, not to the others, to you. I was shocked. I asked him why, and he said something I never forgot. Gabriel's eyes grew misty with the memory. I've been watching you, he told me. The others perform for an audience. They seek approval with every cut. But you work with the stone itself. You listen to it. You see its nature and work with that nature, not against it. That's the mark of a true jeweler. Not the one who makes noise, but the one who sees clearly. Your value, Marcus, has nothing to do with who notices you. It has everything to do with who you are when nobody's watching. The question isn't, why don't they see me? The question is, do you see yourself? Something shifted in Marcus that afternoon. Not all at once, but like light slowly changing angles until everything looks different. He stopped waiting for recognition at work and started recognizing himself. He documented his contributions carefully, not aggressively, but factually. When his boss presented their quarterly analysis 3 months later, Marcus quietly scheduled a meeting with the division director and showed his original work, complete with timestamps and development notes. He didn't do it angrily, just clearly and confidently. The director's response was immediate. Marcus was transferred to a new team, where his skills were not just seen but cultivated. But more importantly, something changed inside him. At his cousin's wedding that summer, when someone asked what he'd been up to, Marcus spoke. He shared his work, his interests, his thoughts, not loudly or boastfully, but with the quiet confidence of someone who finally understood his own value. He kept one of Gabriel's rough stones on his desk, a reminder that he didn't need to be polished and perfect for others' approval. He just needed to be true to what was already inside him. Because here's what Marcus finally understood, what Gabriel had been trying to teach him all along. The world is full of people waiting to be discovered, validated, and polished by others. But the truly valuable ones, the ones who change their own lives and touch others, they're the ones who recognize their own worth first. They're the ones who understand that, like an unpolished stone, their brilliance doesn't depend on perfect conditions or the right lighting or someone else's recognition. It simply exists, constant and real, waiting not to be created but to be acknowledged. You are not overlooked because you lack value. Sometimes you're overlooked because your true worth can't be measured by surface judgments and quick glances. Some stones require patience, understanding, and the right perspective to truly see. And maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe that's exactly what makes you rare. So ask yourself tonight, are you waiting for someone else to polish you, to validate you, to tell you you're valuable? Or can you hold yourself up to the light and finally see what's been there all along? Because the unpolished stone isn't waiting to become valuable. It already is. It always has been. And so are you.